The phone rang in the dead of night, jolting Mark Thompson from a restless sleep. On the other end was his daughter, Emily, her voice cold as steel. "Dad, if you can't pay for my wedding, don't bother coming, and don't call me family anymore." Mark's heart shattered. The man who had raised her alone for 20 years, sacrificing everything, was now discarded like yesterday's news because he couldn't fund her extravagant dreams. Mark sat up in bed, the weight of her words pressing down on him like a ton of bricks. He stared at the photo on his nightstand. Emily as a little girl, grinning ear to ear on his shoulders at a 4th of July parade. How had it come to this? For years, he'd hidden his true self to protect her, to give her a normal life in their conservative suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. But now, at 45, with gray creeping into his temples, Mark had finally found love, real love with Spencer, and that truth had unraveled everything. It started innocently enough, or so Mark thought. After his wife, Sarah, died in a car accident when Emily was just 5, Mark threw himself into fatherhood. He worked double shifts as a high school English teacher, coached her soccer team, and attended every parent-teacher conference. The neighbors praised him as the perfect single dad, but they didn't know the secret he buried deep. Mark was gay. He'd married Sarah young, pressured by his Southern Baptist family, convincing himself it was just a phase. But after her death, the loneliness gnawed at him, yet he pushed it down for Emily's sake. "She needs stability," he'd tell himself, ignoring the ache in his chest. Years passed, and Emily grew into a confident young woman. She excelled in college on a scholarship Mark had scrimped to help with, majoring in marketing. Mark was proud, beaming at her graduation. But as she entered the workforce, something shifted. Emily started dating Ryan, an ambitious lawyer from a wealthy family, and suddenly her tastes turned luxurious. Designer bags, weekend getaways to the Hamptons, things Mark could never afford on his salary. He didn't mind at first. She was happy. But then came the engagement. "Dad," Ryan proposed. Emily squealed over the phone one evening. Mark congratulated her, his voice warm, but inside, a storm brewed. He knew weddings were expensive, but Emily's vision was over the top. A venue in Napa Valley, custom gowns, a live band flown in from New York. The total? Over $100,000. Mark's savings were modest, enough for a down payment on a small house or emergencies. But not this. "Honey, that's a lot," he said gently. "Maybe we can scale it back." But Emily laughed it off. "Ryan's parents are chipping in half. You can cover the rest, right? You've always been there for me." Mark hesitated. He wanted to be there, but there was something else, Spencer. They'd met 6 months earlier at a local bookstore event. Spencer, a 38-year-old architect with kind eyes and a gentle smile, had struck up a conversation about Mark's favorite author, James Baldwin. For the first time in decades, Mark felt seen, not as a dad or a widower, but as a man. Their coffee dates turned into dinners, then quiet evenings at Spencer's apartment. It was love, pure and terrifying. Mark hadn't come out to Emily yet. The fear of her rejection paralyzed him. But as the wedding plans escalated, he knew he couldn't hide forever. One Sunday afternoon, Mark invited Emily over for brunch. The house smelled of pancakes and fresh coffee, just like old times. As they sat at the kitchen table, Mark's hands trembled. There's something I need to tell you," he began. Her eyes widened, sensing the gravity. "I'm gay. I've been seeing someone. A man named Spencer." The words hung in the air. Emily's fork clattered to the plate. "What? Since when?" she stammered. Mark explained his past, the marriage to her mom as a cover, the years of denial. He thought she'd understand. She was progressive, with LGBTQ+ friends. But her face hardened. "So all this time you were lying?" Mom deserved better. The accusation stung, but Mark pressed on. "I loved your mom in my way, but this is who I am." Emily left abruptly, claiming a headache. Days turned into weeks with radio silence. Mark reached out, but her responses were curt. Then came the call about the wedding funds. If you're living this new life with him, she spat, maybe you can ask Spencer for money. But if you can't contribute, don't show up. Mark pleaded, but she hung up. Alone in his quiet house, he wondered if coming out had been worth it. The societal whispers he'd feared, neighbors gossiping, colleagues side-eyeing, paled compared to losing his only child. Yet, Spencer's hand on his shoulder that night reminded him of the freedom he'd gained. But at what cost? As the days blurred, Mark grappled with his decisions. Had he been selfish? Or was Emily the one letting prejudice cloud her love? The tension built, a storm on the horizon. As Mark faced the reality that family bonds, once unbreakable, could snap under pressure. Mark paced his living room, the phone still warm in his hand from Emily's call. Spencer sat on the couch, watching him with concern. "She'll come around," Spencer said softly, but Mark shook his head. "You don't know her. She's stubborn, like her mom." The irony twisted in his gut. Sarah had been the one to accept him early on, even if their marriage was more friendship than passion. But Emily? She saw it as betrayal. Flashback to their first real date. Mark and Spencer at a quiet Italian restaurant in Midtown Atlanta. The candlelight flickered, casting warm shadows. "Tell me about your daughter," Spencer prompted. Mark's eyes lit up as he shared stories. Emily's first bike ride, her high school debates. But he omitted the fear, the years of pretending. Spencer shared his own past. Out since college, estranged from his conservative parents in Texas. "It hurts, but living authentically? Worth it," Spencer said. Mark envied that certainty. By dessert, their hands brushed under the table, a spark igniting. Their relationship deepened quickly. Weekends at Spencer's loft, cooking together, watching old films. Mark felt alive, but guilt shadowed him. "What if Emily finds out?" he'd whisper in the dark. Spencer urged honesty. "She's an adult. She'll handle it." But Mark delayed, fearing the fallout. Society's gaze weighed heavy. In Georgia, gay rights had progressed, but in their suburb old attitudes lingered. Church friends might shun him. Parents at school could whisper. And Emily's circle? Ryan's family was old money, traditional. What if they influenced her? When Mark finally told her, the reaction was worse than imagined. Emily's texts flooded in after that brunch. "How could you hide this? What about Mom's memory?" Mark responded patiently, explaining his internal struggle, the societal pressure to conform. But she fired back. "This changes everything. Ryan's parents are conservative. What if they pull out?" There it was, the wedding. Emily's dream day, funded partly by Mark, now tainted by his lifestyle. Mark met Spencer for coffee the next day, his face drawn. "She thinks I'm choosing you over her," he said. Spencer frowned. "It's not a choice. You can have both." But Mark knew better. The mouth wan Dow Duck tore at him. Was loving Spencer a betrayal of his fatherly duties? He'd sacrificed romance for years to be the perfect dad. Now, at the cusp of happiness, it threatened to destroy his bond with Emily. Weeks later, Emily called again, her tone businesslike. "Dad, the venue deposit is due. $20,000 from you." Mark's stomach dropped. His savings hovered at $15,000, earmarked for retirement or emergencies. I can't. Not that much." Silence. "Then maybe Spencer can help. Or is your new life too important?" The sarcasm bit deep. Mark hung up, tears stinging. He confided in Spencer that night, who offered to contribute. "No," Mark insisted. "This is between me and her." But the offer planted a seed of doubt. Was he letting pride ruin everything? The pressure mounted. At work, a colleague overheard a phone argument and asked if everything was okay. Mark brushed it off, but the facade cracked. Home alone, he scrolled through old photos, remembering Emily's childhood tantrums. how he'd always cave to make her happy. Was this another, or a line he couldn't cross? Spencer noticed Mark's withdrawal. "Talk to me," he urged during a walk in Piedmont Park. Under the bright sun, families picnicked, a stark contrast to Mark's turmoil. "I'm scared of losing her," Mark admitted. Spencer stopped, turning to face him. "But what about losing yourself? You've hidden long enough." Their kiss there, public and bold, felt like defiance. But back home, Emily's email arrived. Itemized wedding costs, with Mark's share circled. "Decide soon," it read. Mark's internal conflict raged. Society preached family first, but what if family demanded denial? He weighed the options. Pay and pretend or stand firm and risk severance. The choice loomed, a moral crossroads, as Emily's deadline approached. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Emily showed up unannounced at Mark's door, Ryan in tow. Her fiancé stood awkwardly, a tall man in a pressed suit, avoiding eye contact. "We need to talk," Emily said, pushing past. Mark glanced at Spencer, who was visiting, and nodded for him to stay. The living room felt too small for the tension. Emily launched in. "Dad, this wedding is once in a lifetime. Ryan's parents are covering the big stuff, but I need your help." Mark sighed. "It's not about the money, Em. It's about us." She crossed her arms. "Us? You dropped this bomb about being gay, and now everything's complicated." Ryan shifted, murmuring, "Maybe we should." But Emily cut him off. "No, he needs to hear this. Dad, your choice affects me. People will talk." Mark's blood boiled. "Choice? This is who I am." Spencer stepped forward. "Emily, your dad loves you. This doesn't change that." She whirled on him. "You don't get to speak. You're the reason he's bailing." The accusation hung, raw and unfair. Mark defended Spencer, but Emily stormed out, Ryan apologizing before following. Alone, Mark collapsed into a chair. "She's right," he whispered. Spencer knelt beside him. "No, she's scared. Give her time." But time was a luxury they didn't have. The next day, Mark received a text. "If you can't support my future, maybe you're not part of it." The words cut deeper than any knife. He replayed his life. Nights reading bedtime stories, sacrificing vacations for her braces. Was it all for naught because of his orientation? Societal pressures amplified the drama. At a school staff meeting, a parent complained about alternative lifestyles in curriculum, eyeing Mark suspiciously. Paranoia set in. He confided in a close friend, Lisa, another teacher. "Emily's reacting to fear," Lisa said. "But you deserve happiness." Her words echoed Spencer's, but the doubt lingered. What if coming out was timed poorly, right before her wedding? Mark decided to try reconciliation. He drove to Emily's apartment in the city, flowers in hand. She answered, makeup smudged from crying. "What do you want?" He poured out his heart. The years of suppression, the joy Spencer brought. "I want you to meet him properly. See, he's good for me." Emily softened momentarily. "Dad, I love you, but this is hard. Ryan's family, they're traditional. If they find out, they might withdraw support." The revelation stunned Mark. So it wasn't just her prejudice, it was theirs infecting her. They talked for hours, tears flowing. Emily admitted confusion. "I thought our family was perfect. Now it's different." Mark hugged her. "Different isn't bad." For a moment, hope flickered. But as he left, she added, "Still need that deposit." The money loomed like a barrier. Back home, Spencer waited. "How'd it go?" Mark recounted, ending with the ultimatum. Spencer's face fell. "She's using the wedding as leverage." Mark nodded, the moral quandary clear. Pay to keep peace, endorsing denial, or refuse and force growth. He chose the latter, wiring a smaller amount, $5,000, with a note. "This is what I can give. My love is unlimited." Emily's response was swift. A voicemail, voice trembling with anger. That's not enough. You're choosing him. Click. The silence deafened. Mark's world tilted. Had he pushed too far? The damage rippled. Sleepless nights. Strained work performance. Spencer supported him, but even their relationship felt the strain. Am I worth this? Spencer asked one evening. Mark pulled him close. Yes, but losing her. It's killing me. The high noon of conflict approached. Rumors spread. Emily told friends about her complicated dad. Mark faced judgmental stares at the grocery store. Society's lens magnified his pain, questioning if gay parents could truly prioritize family. But Mark held firm, his decisions a testament to authenticity over conformity. Betrayal hit like a freight train. 2 weeks after the partial payment, Emily announced on social media. The wedding was on, funded by Ryan's parents entirely. No mention of Mark. He scrolled through the photos, her beaming with the in-laws, captions about family support. Felt like erasure. Spencer held him as he cried. She's punishing you, he said. Mark knew it, but the hurt was visceral. The internal storm raged. Mark questioned every choice. Marrying Sarah to fit in, staying closeted for Emily, coming out now. Each decision carried a price. Lost years, suppressed identity, now fractured family. He attended therapy, the counselor probing, "What does family mean to you?" Mark struggled. Loyalty without conditions. But Emily's actions screamed otherwise. A chance encounter amplified the drama. At a coffee shop, Mark ran into Ryan. "Hey, Mr. Thompson," Ryan said awkwardly. "Emily's upset." Mark nodded. "I know, but I can't bankroll extravagance." Ryan leaned in. "It's not just money. His parents found out about you. They're pressuring her to distance." The revelation floored Mark. So external forces drove the wedge. "Tell her I love her," Mark said, voice breaking. Ryan promised, but doubt lingered. Emily's next move, uninviting him. A formal email. "Given circumstances, it's best you don't attend." Mark stared at the screen, numb. Spencer exploded. "This is cruel." But Mark saw the deeper issue. Emily's moral compromise, choosing wealth over integrity. He wrote back, "I respect your choice, but remember, love isn't transactional." No reply. The toll mounted. Mark took leave from work, the stress manifesting in headaches, lost appetite. Spencer cooked meals, offered distractions, drives to the mountains, quiet nights. Their bond strengthened amid chaos, a silver lining. But Mark's thoughts circled. Was his happiness selfish? Society often painted gay men as hedonistic, neglecting family. He fought the stereotype, but Emily's rejection reinforced it. In a bold move, Mark reached out to Ryan's parents via email, introducing himself honestly. "I love my daughter. My orientation doesn't change that." The response was polite but firm. "We wish Emily well, but prefer traditional values." It confirmed the bias, class, and prejudice intertwined. As the wedding neared, Emily called once more, voice softer. "Dad, I miss you." Hope surged. "Then let me be there." But she hesitated. "The money. We had to cut corners without your full share." Mark realized. The luxury wasn't essential. Her pride was. It's not about corners. It's about acceptance." The line went dead. The betrayal deepened when Mark learned from a mutual friend. Emily had spun the story, portraying him as absent. "She said you prioritized your boyfriend." Lies to save face. Mark confronted her via text. "Truth matters." Her reply, "You started the lies." The cycle of hurt spun. Mark faced a crossroads. Fight or let go. With Spencer's encouragement, he chose peace, sending a gift. A necklace Sarah wore on their wedding day, with a note. "For your new beginning. Love always." No acknowledgement. The wedding passed without him, photos flooding online. Seeing Emily radiant, Mark wept for what was lost. The aftermath brought awakening. Mark joined a support group for LGBTQ+ parents, sharing his story. Others nodded knowingly, similar tales of rejection. It highlighted societal flaws, acceptance conditional on conformity. But in Spencer's arms, Mark found solace, his decisions validated by inner peace, even as the price echoed. Damage control failed spectacularly. Post-wedding, Emily's silence stretched into months. Mark sent birthday cards, holiday texts, unanswered. The void consumed him. At night, he'd stare at the ceiling, replaying arguments, questioning if he'd been too stubborn. Spencer urged therapy together, but Mark resisted. "This is my mess." A turning point, Spencer's birthday dinner. Friends gathered, toasting their relationship. For the first time, Mark felt community, not isolation. But midway, his phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "We need to talk." Heart racing, he stepped outside. "Dad," she said when he called. "I'm pregnant." Joy mixed with wariness. "That's wonderful, Em. But then, Ryan's job transferred us to New York. We could use help with the move." The pattern, need driving contact. Mark paused. "Congrats on the baby. But help? After everything." Emily sighed. "I overreacted about the wedding. But you hurt me too." The conversation turned raw. Accusations of abandonment, defenses of authenticity. "Your coming out felt like rejection," she admitted. Mark countered. "Hiding felt like dying." For hours they unpacked her fear of judgment, his years of sacrifice. Tears flowed on both ends. Yet, resolution eluded. Emily asked for financial aid again, just for the deposit on our new place. Mark refused. "Not like this. Come visit. Meet Spencer." She balked. "Ryan's not ready." The impasse revealed deeper mouthwan, her lingering prejudice versus his demand for full acceptance. The confrontation escalated at a family reunion Mark wasn't invited to, but heard about. Emily's aunts, Sarah's sisters, gossiped. Mark's living in sin now. It reached him via a cousin's call. Enraged, Mark drove to Emily's old apartment, only to find it empty. A neighbor directed him to her new address. He showed up, unannounced. Emily answered, belly slightly rounded. "Dad? What are you doing here?" They argued on the doorstep. "You cut me out, spread lies," Mark accused. "You chose a stranger over me," she shot back. Ryan appeared, mediating. "Let's calm down." Inside, over tea, truths emerged. Emily confessed, "I was ashamed. In our circle, it's not normal." Mark's heart ached. Normal is overrated. Love is love. The evening ended in fragile truce. Emily hugged him goodbye. "I'll think about meeting Spencer." But weeks later, no follow-up. Mark realized change required effort from her. He focused on his life, promoted at school, planning a trip with Spencer. Their relationship, tested by fire, grew stronger. Spencer proposed one evening, a simple ring under stars. "Yes," Mark whispered, the joy bittersweet without Emily. Society's role loomed large. News articles about LGBTQ+ family rights fueled his resolve. He volunteered at pride events, advocating for acceptance. But personal wounds festered. A final blow. Emily's baby shower invite arrived, addressed only to Mark, excluding Spencer. "Baby steps," Spencer joked, but Mark saw the slight. He attended alone, smiles forced amid whispers. There, Emily pulled him aside. "Dad, I'm sorry for the wedding." Genuine remorse? Or manipulation? Mark forgave, but set boundaries. "Include my whole life, or not at all?" She nodded, but time would tell. The damage, trust eroded, bond scarred, demanded healing. Mark paid the price daily, his choices a double-edged sword. As tensions simmered, awakening dawned. Mark wrote a letter to unborn grandchild. "May you live freely." It symbolized hope amid hurt. The birth changed everything. And nothing. Emily went into labor early, texting Mark in panic. He rushed to the New York hospital, Spencer by his side despite no invite. In the waiting room, Ryan's parents eyed them warily. "Who's this?" his mother asked. Mark stood tall. "My partner, Spencer." Awkward silence followed, but Mark refused to hide. Baby Sophia arrived healthy, a bundle of joy. Holding her, Mark's eyes welled. Emily, exhausted but smiling, whispered, "She's beautiful, Dad." For a moment the rift mended. Spencer peeked in later, Emily allowing a brief meet. "Nice to finally see you," she said stiffly. Progress, albeit slow, but old patterns resurfaced. Back home, Emily called for advice on motherhood, then slipped in requests for baby gear. Mark sent gifts but drew lines. "We're here for support, not funds." She bristled. "After all I've been through?" The argument reignited moral debates, her entitlement versus his boundaries. Family therapy followed, suggested by Spencer. Sessions uncovered layers. Emily's grief over her mom's death, projecting onto Mark's new life. "I felt replaced," she admitted. Mark shared his isolation. "I raised you alone, denying myself." The therapist highlighted societal influences, heteronormative expectations pressuring both. Insights brought tears, but no instant fix. Months passed. Sophia's first birthday approached. Emily invited both Mark and Spencer, a milestone. At the party, amid balloons and cake, tensions eased. Ryan chatted with Spencer about architecture, a neutral ground. Emily pulled Mark aside. "I'm trying, Dad. It's hard unlearning things." He nodded. "Me too." Yet, challenges persisted. A family dinner turned sour when Ryan's father made a homophobic joke. Mark called it out. "Not acceptable." The room froze. Emily defended weakly, but later apologized. "He's old school." Mark replied, "Change starts with us." The incident tested her loyalty. Side with in-laws or dad. The ultimate test. Emily's promotion required relocation back to Atlanta. "We could live near you," she said. Opportunity for reconciliation. But with strings, Mark agreed to help house hunt, insisting on inclusion. During visits, Spencer joined, bonds forming slowly. Sophia's giggles around Grandpa Spencer melted barriers. Reflection hit Mark hard. His journey, from closeted dad to out and proud, exacted a toll. Lost time, emotional scars. But gains shown, authentic love, self-respect. Emily's arc mirrored, from rejection to tentative acceptance, paying with humility. In quiet moments, Mark pondered the ethics. Had he timed his coming out poorly, adding to her stress? Or was her reaction a product of ingrained bias? Society's role was undeniable: media portrayals, legal battles shaping views. But personal choices defined outcomes. The family gathered for Thanksgiving, a tentative reunion. Laughter filled the air, Sophia toddling between them. As dessert ended, Emily raised a glass. "To new beginnings." Mark clinked, hopeful. Yet, the story's essence lingered in choices prices. Mark and Emily emerged changed, wiser, wounded, but connected. Spencer became family, his patience an anchor. In the end, was Emily's initial rejection justified by her pain, or was it a betrayal that no apology could fully erase?